Good morning. I am not your regularly scheduled program. Maddie is not with us today. I am Reverend Michelle Yates. I am the Minister of Lifespan Faith Development here, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to service today at the First Universalist Church of Rochester. If you are here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you. Thank you for making it to this worshiping community. Please remain for coffee hour after the service, for connection and fellowship, or for a modern connection singing after the service. There's also a visitor's form that can be found on the back of your order of service or by clicking the link in the chat. Please fill this out so we can offer you a welcome beyond what we can offer on a Sunday morning. If you are looking to be part of our welcoming ministry at First Universalist, please contact MJ Curry to offer coffee hour. Partnering with others is encouraged and more fun. And now a message from the Ministerial Search Committee.
Good morning. Y'all good? So I'm Charlie Kortzel, and it turns out that I'm actually not part of the search committee, but I do a little PR. So the Ministerial Search Committee is inviting you to one or two information sessions about our new ministerial search. This will give everyone a chance to share their hopes, feelings, and suggestions about the upcoming search for our new congregation's minister. This will also give the committee a chance to describe the process and answer questions about this new contract to call ministry search. These sessions will not involve any voting. The first session will occur in person and by Zoom on Sunday service in 2 weeks, just after the coffee hour on February 23rd in the sanctuary after your coffee break. Or if you're on Zoom, it'll be during coffee hour. If you can't make that session, the second session will occur on Zoom only, Monday evening, February 24 at 7 o'clock. The link will be found on the church calendar, and we hope you can attend one of these sessions to learn more about this process. If you have questions, talk with one of the Ministerial Search Committee members, which would be Shelley Adams, Joy Lassesi, Catherine Matisse, Clinton Swingle, and Jim Milch. Thank you.
Before we take a moment to turn to our neighbor, let us take a moment to turn towards the camera just underneath Hope, to the right of our Progress Pride flag, and to greet our online worshiping community. I am imagining that there's a few more of us online this morning than in the pews, given the snow over the night. If you're online, please pop into the chat to offer a greeting, and for our online community, please wait to share joys and sorrows until later in the service, so they'll be visible to us here in the sanctuary. And if you're here in First Universalist in the building, let us take a moment to turn to our neighbor and offer a greeting. Dear ones, before we sing our opening hymn, God of grace and God of glory, I want to acknowledge that this hymn has a lot of G words in it. Oh, I'm actually on this mic, so let me fix it a little better and see. So how's this? Is this one better? Do you want to switch me over to here? Okay. Hello. Better, maybe? Okay. All right. Here we go. Before we sing our opening hymn, God of Grace and God of Glory, I want to acknowledge that there are a lot of G words in there. And remind you to turn on your faith language translator. Here at First Universalist, we try to use all the faith words so that we can each grow in our ability to translate and appreciate the richness of what they mean for your personal theology. So I invite you to think of this hymn as a prayer to the divine, the universe, your higher power, your angels and ancestors, your best possible selves, or however the G word offers care and support to you. Thank you. Please rise in singing hymn number 115, God of Grace and God of Glory.
June 19th, 2111, 86 years from now. How many people know the significance of that date? A few. Okay. Some may have cheated. It's when Black Americans will have been free as long as they were enslaved. Yet, even though the last of the enslaved were freed on June 19, 1865, the impact of slavery and the subsequent abuse of Black people since then continues to impact our country today. The sign in front of our church reads, Black Lives Matter. February is Black History Month, and our current theme is equity. So, what progress has been made with equity for Black Americans? Recently, I've been studying this topic, and I learned that for people like Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Maya Angelou, LeBron James, Serena Williams, Denzel Washington, Viola Davis, Colin Powell, and Kamala Harris, there has been progress. However, I could not find one area in which equity has been reached for Black Americans as a whole. For example, income. For every dollar that a white person earns, a Black person is paid about 65 cents. Family income. For every $100 that a white family has, a Black family has less than $15. Criminal justice. 49% of incarcerated people are Black, but Black Americans are only 15% of the total population. Black suspects are more likely to be assaulted or killed by the police than white suspects, and white criminals receive lighter sentences. It's also important to note that, according to a Pew Research 2023 survey, 75% of Black Americans reported that they have experienced discrimination or have been treated unfairly because of their race. I realize that we're all been exposed to horrible news every day since January 20th, which we can't ignore, but that doesn't mean we should lose sight of the importance of treating the 48 million Black Americans in the U.S. with equity. After 15 plus years of maltreatment, they all deserve equity. So I invite us all to consider racial equity and to support each other in the steps we can take as a people of faith toward a more loving and just world. Come, let us worship together. As John Ames comes forward to light our chalice at First Universalist, and you light a chalice in your own homes, please join me in our chalice lighting words spoken in unison. May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please rise in body or in spirit for our affirmation of faith, followed by our sung offering. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, seek knowledge and freedom, serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. I have some good news. Yes, Josh Allen was chosen as the MVP. But wait, there's more. Buffalo's infamous record from 31 years ago of losing 4 straight Super Bowls remains intact. Seriously. Couldn't make a good transition there. First Universalist offers a beautiful service every week and beautiful music and a room full of compassionate people. Also, the activities that take place outside of the sanctuary provide opportunities to form lasting connections with others. Since we're small, it doesn't take long before you'll know almost everyone by name, but our size also means that we depend on your generosity to keep our personal, compassionate church moving forward. Please place your offering in the offering basket or give online by scanning the QR code on the back of your order of service. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you for your generosity. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
Here in reverence now we gather for the blessings we have known, with a pledge to one another that we journey not alone. Joy and sorrow make us wise, kin to all that lives and dies. Love calls us on. Love calls us on.
Words and deeds of those before us, waken here to keep us strong. Blend our voices in the chorus of creation's living song. Courage bids us lift our eyes, pointing to the rising skies. Hope shows us on. Hope calls us on.
Hope calls us on. Loyal guides in love and duty, lead us with a trusted light. Blessed are they whose inward beauty shows the path of truth and right. Honor is their earthly prize. By their work we realize faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. Faith calls us on.
We have shared a radiant hour.
We have shared
When the truth has made us free,
and true.
and the Spirit's gracious power
Spirit of grace,
dreamed of good that yet shall be.
us for good.
Bright the path before us lies.
Is the path.
Joyful pilgrims now we rise. Life calls us on. Life calls
Oh,
us
yes. Life calls us
on.
So I invite, if there are any of our kiddos in the child room or online today, to come forward for the story, or invite your child at heart forth. So our story today is from the Hindu tradition, The Barking Dog and the Heartless King, edited and abridged by Juliet Donaldson. Once upon a time, there lived a king who cared about nobody but himself. He had grown rich from the high taxes he had forced his people to pay, and while they had become poorer and poorer, he had become richer and richer. He lived in a gorgeous palace surrounded by huge piles of money, and meanwhile his people lived in tumble-down hovels without even enough to eat. But the heartless king did not care. If he had what he wanted, that was enough for him. One day, Krishna, disguising himself as a hunter, brought an enormous dog to the palace gates. Think like Clifford the Big Red Dog. The big dog. To teach the heartless king a lesson. Now, the king was fond of hunting, and this enormous dog fascinated him, so he welcomed them into the palace. But this was no ordinary dog. Her bark was like the roar of thunder. Roar, roar, roar. The first time she opened her mouth and barked, the awful noise shook the walls of the palace and frightened the king and all his courtiers. Roar, roar, roar. And the dog kept barking again and again. Her fierce roaring shook the palace and even the earth itself. Roar, roar, roar. Nobody in the palace could hear themselves talk, think. The king was desperate and sent for the hunter. "Why does your dog make such a deafening noise?" "The dog is hungry," said the hunter. So the king ordered that big platefuls of food be brought, and in almost no time at all, the enormous dog had licked the plates clean and once again began barking. Ruh, 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 ruh. Another plate of food was brought. This dog just ate and ate as quickly as each plate came, it was gone. Over and over, this happened. The king was angry. "You and your dog must leave the palace at once. We can no longer endure this deafening noise." But the hunter was firm. "Your Majesty, we have been sent by one greater than you. We are here to stay." The king was frightened. He grasped the arms of his chair and stared at the hunter. The king was not accustomed to being spoken to like this. Will nothing satisfy the hunger of your enormous dog?" "Nothing that is easy for you to give. There are people in this kingdom who, even though they work hard, they do not have enough to eat. This dog feels the hunger of every person in this kingdom who does not have enough food. As long as even one person is hungry, this dog will keep barking, as if on cue. Ruff, 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 ruff. On hearing this, the king was more frightened than ever. He had never even thought that what he had been doing was wrong. He had never been taught that what he was doing was wrong. He thought that his people were supposed to do exactly what he wanted, and it never occurred that he should think of the happiness or needs of anyone but himself. He was now angry, thinking he would go mad from hearing the continuous barking of that enormous dog. He would have to feed everyone in his kingdom. He called his servants. "Take my gold and silver, find all the people who are hungry, give them my wealth, so that they can buy food until no one in the land is hungry." Servants hurried away to do as their king commanded, distributing his wealth, and soon there was shouting and laughing and hustling and bustling all over the palace. In fact, the royal servants made so much noise doing all this bustling that they could hardly hear the barking of the enormous dog. All day long, day after day, the servants went to every village in the land until everyone had enough money to buy food. At last, the day came when the enormous dog really did stop barking and laid down quietly beside the king's chair. The dog was satisfied, and everywhere in the land the people were contented. For the next few years, the enormous dog stayed by the king's side to make sure the king never reverted to his old ways. A few times, the dog barked to remind the king about justice, and each time the king remembered the important lesson he had learned. Finally, the dog was convinced that the king truly understood the meaning of justice. One morning, she simply got up, walked out of the palace, and went to bark for justice in another land. Once a month, we here at First Universalist get a taste for the experience of the king's servants and their hustle and bustle to provide food to those who are hungry, to call out, to bark out for justice in our land. And we collect non-perishable goods and funds for the community covered on Nestor Street. If you have not already brought forward, as our baskets are already full, the food that you may have, or funds that you may have brought with you today, I invite you forward to do so. Thank you so much. As we prepare our hearts and minds for joys and sorrows, I invite you to sing with me our doxology.
My friends, hello friends, I invite you into this reverent time of sharing the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like to, you can place your hand over your heart to be able to listen from this heart-centered place. As Elizabeth places stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. All online are also invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat. First, from Richard Reed, two joys that are opportunities. The Memorial Art Gallery is celebrating Black History Month today from noon to 5, free admission. At the George Eastman House today, Glenda Brayman and her group Luminescence are singing this afternoon. Sounds like two wonderful opportunities there. And then a joy from Charlie Kurtzel. I signed up for pipe organ lessons this semester at the Eastman Community Music School, and I got a nice surprise this week. My teacher nominated me for a merit scholarship because he felt I was really trying to become a better organist, and the scholarship committee agreed. So I received the Richard Erickson Scholarship this semester. Wow, totally unexpected. I'm not surprised. But anyway, congratulations, Charlie. We're all happy and proud for you. Now, let's see. What I can see is... Okay, that's not... Okay. Sorrow for the death... And I'm sorry, who's that from? Karen Labaco. Okay, sorrow for the death of a neighbor. Sorry to hear about that, Karen. Joy for the opportunity to gather with the community and family to celebrate her life. So it sounds kind of bittersweet. Sorry for your loss. And I think maybe that's it. Okay. We will drop one final stone in the bowl to represent all of the joys and sorrows held in the silent sanctuaries of our own hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. We hold this morning that this church is a worshiping community that is meeting in a time of war. We acknowledge the wars and conflicts that are happening in Israel, Palestine, the Ukraine, the Congo, and Sudan. We acknowledge that there are more conflicts and wars that are happening that we are not even aware of. We earnestly pray for these wars to cease. We light a white candle to acknowledge the grief we feel in this sanctuary and wherever we are worshiping from. Let us be connected by our grief.
Here, I'll light the candles for you.
Okay. And we light a yellow candle to acknowledge the joy, the resilience, the tenacity found in life that still makes life worth living. Let us be connected by joy to those living through the direct impact and loss while at war in their homes, backyards, and country. We will hold a brief moment of silence to honor the many deaths that have happened this past week due to wars across our world. Amen.
Dear ones, I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer and reflection. This month, we continue to explore the worship theme of equity, which I believe is explained best by Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. Things are fair when everyone gets what they need. Things are fair when everyone gets what they need to be included. This month, we celebrate Black History Month, even if some choose not to. We know that Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Indigenous Persons Day and Black History Month and all the other months and days are there to celebrate the rich history, lives, and contributions of people of color to our country and to our world. And we're glad for them. This month for my son's enrichment project, I will continue to tell him about Black inventors like Lewis Latimer, a Unitarian, who contributed to the inventions of the light bulb and the telephone. Or Lonnie Johnson, the NASA engineer who invented the super soaker. This is very important to my son. This month, I encourage you to watch the movies and the music offered to you, because as UUs, we value the richness of pluralism and understand that the system and algorithms, as they are, do not adequately represent the vast tapestry of people that make up America. This month, I invite you to join me in dedicating ourselves to the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only because it is more loving, but because it is just. Poet and Unitarian Universalist Rosemary Watola Tromer asks, how do we keep love at the center of things in a difficult time? And she gives us her answer in the poem, In a Dangerous Time. I think of the bones of the unsung ribcage, the way they protect the heart, how bone, too, is living, how it constantly renews and remakes itself. I think of how ribs engage with other ribs, almost like they're sitting in pews, to expand and contract. And because they do their solid work, they allow the heart to float. This is what I want to do, to be a rib in this body of our country, to make a safe space for love. There is so much now that needs protection. I want to be that flexible, that committed to what's vital, that unwilling to yield. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. I invite you to join in our hymn of contemplation, number 352, Find a Stillness.
Dear ones, I thank you for the opportunity to write and share a sermon with you at least each year. And I have a bit of an imposter syndrome going on this time around. Not only does it feel like it's been a long time, but it feels strange for me to talk about football. Not only because that's usually Reverend Lane May Reed's thing or Reverend Dick Gilbert's thing, but my confession is I really don't know very much about football. Like later in the sermon, I'm going to say something about a third down, and I don't really know what that means. Just putting it out there. But my husband, he always convinces me to watch sport movies because he says it's not about the sport, it's about people. It's about the human condition, striving, facing our demons, bringing out our best, working hard towards a shared goal, trust, forgiveness. The sport is a frame for doing the work of being alive. The Super Bowl, as some of you might watch tonight, and sport philosophies can similarly frame our work in this world. I love a good metaphor. Now, this election season, for as tense as it was, driving through my quiet neighborhood, seeing a diversity of political signs, I noticed something else. Buffalo Bills flags. Everywhere, across the board, across party lines. And it helped to remind me to consider what unifies us as Bills fans, as Rochesterians, as upstate Western New Yorkers. We love our children and our families. We want to feel safe. We're proud of our region, our team. We want to do well. Very different ideas on what that means or how to get there. Unfortunately, this sermon went a little differently because the Bills aren't playing tonight, despite the fact that some of us will still be cheering for them. I don't have any other regalia, so I'll wear my Bills shirt tonight to a party. They, like, perhaps I'm saying, assuming too much, but like many of us, feel we lost the presidential election, the playoffs. Like with any loss, like with listening to the news every morning, we need to take a moment to figure out what to do next. Recently, for the drop-in discussion group, I had the opportunity to reread Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail. And in it, he shares 4 basic steps to any nonviolent campaign. And it's really stuck with me since then. First, the collection of facts. Did injustice really happen? What is the problem? What is wrong? Second, negotiation, trying to address directly where the problem is and make it better. And if that does not work, step 3, and this one surprised me, self-purification. It's not something we talk a lot about as Universalists, self-purification. I'll get back to it. And then step 4 is direct action. So kind of like what Board President Clinton was saying about the ministerial search process. There's the letting go time, an empty space time, and then the starting something new time. And we hate that space in between, but we need that space in between. So this self-purification step for them in this time, doing racial justice protests in Birmingham, Alabama, this meant workshops on nonviolence, on preparing oneself for whatever the consequences may be for the nonviolent direct action. It is a time of training, of self-preparation, a time of reflection, So when I think about the current time, when I'm taking a moment reeling from the daily news, to then remember that nothing is actually happening in this space. It sounds weird. In this space that feels fallow, we are actually preparing ourselves as the gravity of the moment pulls us together to prepare for action. I think about this period of time with First Universalist casting a vision for what the interim or contract ministry could look like, taking this moment in time to reflect, to look at our systems, to take stock of the ministry that we've been doing with honesty and humility. What happened? What could happen? To revisit our mission and vision of who are we and what are we doing here? With such a big question like that, I also wanted to throw out a big word, because salvation and Super Bowl make a great little alliteration for a sermon title. What does salvation mean to us? I think it was a survey maybe 20 years ago, and they surveyed all the registered member UUs around, and of all the value statements, salvation was ranked least important. But why? Because it doesn't have a context for us. So what could it mean for us? In the traditional Christian world, it's connected to being saved from damnation in hell after we die. Well, it makes sense why it doesn't connect. We don't believe in hell after we die. I mean, there's quite a bit of freedom there. We don't tell you in general, but Universalists historically believe that all are reunited with God, with the Spirit of love and life. There is no jail of hell to go to for any time, let alone forever. We focus on, we're not worried about what happens after we die. That's up to each individual person and their theology. But as a faith tradition, we're focused on the here and now. How are we creating heaven or hell now? What could the word salvation then mean to us? I believe that, like in the anthem the choir sang today, I think it means that we have found or experienced a greater love to be held in, to be hoped for, a kind of faith or sense of life to live for that calls us on, that gives us purpose and meaning, something that we are able to commit ourselves to, that we can feel and know is real amidst everything else. Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker wrote the words that go to a song. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. We have a faith that saves lives and that saves souls. And to me, that means our faith redeems my ability to live my best life, despite the struggles of the human condition. It restores me to hope and to wholeness, so that I can stand the pain of being alive, of being embodied, of enduring heartbreak, to drag my soul off the floor and do what I can with the time and abilities that have been given to me. When Jesus in the New Testament uses the word salvation, he uses the Greek word soteria, which really means complete well-being and wholeness. We are seeking for ourselves and for our world soteria. When I first became really involved with the UU Church, I had really just come in the door, but I was 25 and I had a pulse, so they asked me to be a youth group advisor. This is a normal story I've heard. And I can't tell you what a precious time that was, practically monthly at that time. Of course, this is pre-pandemic lockdown. This is like 20 years ago. We would go to a conference monthly, practically at that time, going to different churches where we would spend the weekend sleeping on the floors or couches if you got there early, and developing our faith together. What does it mean? How do we live? How do we get through the day? And as you might imagine, and as I currently having teenagers know for a fact, no one can existential crisis quite as magnificently as a teenager can. And for them to find life-saving, soul-saving hope in youth group, in Unitarian Universalism, means something. They mean it when they say, I don't know if I would still be here if it weren't for this community. I don't know if I could keep getting up every day and keep believing and hoping if it were not for this faith community. We have a faith that saves lives and saves souls. And we come here weekly to get a recharge, to remind ourselves that we are held in a larger love. So how do we do it? How do we continue to pursue the salvation of love? Through changes in our personal lives, in our families, in our congregations' visible leadership, through changes and challenges in our larger community and country and world. Now, salvation through love is not a one and done. We as human beings need it again and again to be recharged, to be reminded, to be remembered into the body. The work of self-purification between negotiation and direct action that MLK talked about, to pursue that state of wholeness and well-being. To ask, what are we committed to, and what is this moment asking of us? So I would offer you some wisdom from the footballs. Even though the Bills didn't end up playing today in the Super Bowl, I really hope they will not give up on their reimagined identity and philosophy that powered this past season. This is what got me excited about football this year, actually. Everybody eats. Have you heard this? So starting in training camp, this idea, and it works well with our story from this morning, rather than having one best receiver, one best person at this or that or the other thing, they focused on the core idea of spreading the ball around. And I'm excited. I don't know who brought it in, but we have a football here with us today. Spreading the ball around. Of players understanding how to cover several positions depending on the needs of the moment. They're able to step in and support. It's so that it's anyone's guess who will catch the first pass or come up with the crucial third down, per their general manager, because I don't know what that means. But putting aside personal glory for the sake of the whole, for the team, for the shared goal moving forward. And then from the other football, soccer, the philosophy of total football, which I learned from the TV show Ted Lasso, and I can show you later. I'm wearing my socks today. Total football has been compared to playing jazz. It's constant movement. It's taking risks and supporting each other's choices, trusting your intuition. In the show, Ted Lasso breaks it down into 4 components. And these are kind of the ones that I'm looking at in, like, we as a church and a movement, like, how does this work for us as, what do we do? First, conditioning. No, I don't expect you to do chalice lighting relays or fitness, tidying up, running up to the 3rd floor and back down. Although, if you want to, I won't stop you. But to tidy up, to tighten up, to get our policies in order, to know what to do if something goes wrong, so that we are ready to respond to whomever walks in our door or whatever might happen or occur, to know that we are ready for whatever comes next. The second is versatility, to understand many roles and be ready to step in as needed. Now, some people, unless they've been in a higher leadership role, you don't even understand the amount of things that they do that you never will hear about. The amount of time and effort and heartache that goes into their stewardship of the congregation. To try to understand better what each part of the body is doing so that we can appreciate each other and support each other and step in and catch the balls if they fall. And as part of that, to be able to ask the big question, what does this situation need right now? I don't know if you've ever had that when you're like maybe with friends or in a small group and there's a conflict or something happens and you're like, whoa, something's off. To be able to ask yourself, what does this situation need right now from me? Third is awareness. What are your teammates doing? Just kind of watching, reading our This Week newsletter, reading the monthly newsletter, knowing what's going on here, and then also kind of knowing what's going on around in our community. I want to make sure that what about our connections with other theologically liberal churches or other churches that are working for justice? Do we know when they're having an event that we want to show up for? Fourth, belief. Investment in a culture of trust and support, making it a place of equity and salvation. How do we continue to build trust and support amongst all of our relationships here in our church community, in the wider justice-seeking community? So that's it. That's what I think we should do now. Through our upcoming transition and in response to the world around us, to build our culture of trust and support, to be the fittest and readiest we can be, to tidy up all the ways and places for a system that is ready to say yes to whatever is going to be asked of it. Awareness of what our teammates are doing and asking regularly, what does this situation need right now of me? Knowing that unlike soccer, we may need to take some time of discernment and training and self-purification to discern the answer to that question. What I want you to walk away from today is to know this, that we have a life and soul saving faith. You have a role. And we have a role to play in the days to come. We won't stop barking until everybody eats. Amen. I invite you to join in our closing hymn, one of my favorites, 1028 in the Teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment. please remain standing as Bill extinguishes our chalice flame this morning. Let us read together the words printed on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. I invite our online congregation to turn on your gallery view and for all of us to take a moment and to look around at who is with you, those are who are with us, and you today. I invite you to place your hand over your heart and take it in. This is our team. These are our people. You are not alone. Even when you're physically alone, hearing bad news, know that you are not alone. That we'll be together soon to hold each other, to cheer each other on, to cry, and to ask together, what does this moment ask for us as we go forth to bark out justice in every land? And may the people say, amen. I invite folks to coffee hour. Everyone's invited to join the Ministry of Coffee Hour activities, MOCA, in the Clara Barton Lounge immediately after the service. If you're interested in being part of a more contemporary worship service, you're also invited to come and sing 15 minutes after service with Brock, Melissa, and others, just for fun. Thank you.